up, everybody? Thanks for hanging out with us on this Friday. We are Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Barrett, Derek, Rob, hanging with you. All right. So, as you guys know, last year during the season, I defended Jonathan Gannon quite a bit. In fact, I erected the Gann wagon, and we drove it to a lot of success. We had a lot of fun with it, despite a lot of people's criticism of him and the defense. And
you look at me when you say that.
I am looking at you. I fought the good fight quite a bit for him. Had his back. And eventually I had to, admit the Super Bowl was not the finest moment for Mr. Gannon's defense in the second half. That's for sure. So as you know, he's taken the job with the Arizona Cardinals as their head coach. So Gannon, speaking in front of the Arizona media, had some very interesting things to say regarding handling of the media. Okay.
Uh-oh. So
here's what he had to say. I'm going to give you the quote. Basically, let me paraphrase this a little bit. Said at one point we were 9-0, which they were never 9-0. They were 8-1, if you remember. They didn't even get to 9-0.
Lost to Washington, right?
Yeah. So that's incorrect. But basically he claimed that when he sat down with the media after going 9-0, that the media said to him, we want you fired. And he said, you want me fired? We have the best defense in the league. We have the most sacks. You're not aggressive enough, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera. None of that stuff ever happened. No media member ever said that we want you fired. If a media member said that, they would be fired. They would no longer be doing their job if they said that for any whatever, business entity they work for, TV, radio, print. They would be gone. That never happened. Now, if he's confusing, social media or callers into sports talk radio, that's one thing, but you got to clarify that. What he was trying to say was, I can handle whatever's thrown my way from the media because that's what I dealt with in Philadelphia. Absolutely false that's what happened in Philadelphia. And lumping everybody together is false too, because I stuck up for you, dude. Okay.
Right. I was riding with you.
And Barrett was with me too. You're right. Barrett was a loyal soldier of the Gann wagon as well.
I hung on to the back of the wagon.
Right. Right. And look, I thought the part of it that was unfair was you got to be more aggressive, and they were still getting to the quarterback. I don't care how you do it as long as you get there, whatever. But like this, now that he's starting this kind of narrative crap that like it was the media who was calling for him to be fired is BS, dude. It's just not true. And don't go that route because you're out of town now. You think you can say whatever you want and people aren't going to hold you accountable. It's not how this works. We can still, this isn't the 1930s where something that happened in Arizona is not going to get back to Philadelphia for a week. With the printing press or the Pony Express or something else. We know exactly what you say the moment you say it.
No question.
Weak.
Very weak. It just goes to show he didn't deserve or he can't handle a market like this. I mean, there's not a lot of guys.
So now I'm enjoying this. Keep talking. I'm enjoying this. Go ahead. Keep talking.
No. What he did on the defensive side of the ball meant a lot. 77 sacks in 1 year, having a number 2 defense in the NFL. He did a lot here. You can't take that away from whether you're on a Gann wagon or not.
Yep.
He still had those guys balling. But there was so much more they could have done if he'd have been more aggressive in his play calling. Then we probably been the number 1 defense in this. So I get that. But don't go and hide behind the Cardinals because the Cardinals suck and talk crazy. You can't talk smack to us.
Now, on top of that, plus you're in a market where the Arizona media is like cotton candy. It's soft.
Exactly.
Right. Compared to Philadelphia. I don't care if you're a head coach, an assistant coach, or a player coming into this city. And we've heard players say this time and time again, especially veteran players that come here. Oh, yeah, I know Philadelphia is a tough market. The first thing you learn about Philadelphia is the fan base is passionate, critical. The media is passionate and critical. It's one of the first things you learn. So you have to have thick skin when you come here. Okay. Plain and simple.
Absolutely.
And yes, Barrett, he racked up incredible stats, but I'm gonna be honest, and I know it's gonna rub people a wrong way. Look at how many inferior offensive lines they played last year. They had the most dominant unit in the NFL, man for man, on both sides of the ball.
I don't know.
But look at the inferior. How many games they played when the starting tackle was out that game?
You can't control that. You can't control who you play.
You can, but I'm just saying it all add up. Man, I'm feasted. Are you kidding me? If I'm Hassan Reddick and I'm playing against tackle number 2 or 3, I'm salivating the whole game.
But you got to say, look at this. The other teams were playing the same guys they were playing. You know, everybody in the division played the same guys.
Yes, they did.
So when you look at the players they played against, I mean, if you say that, you got to look at Washington. Washington had the best interior defensive line in the league. Dallas
one
had
of the worst
offensive
lines in the league.
But still, though, they still didn't rack up the same number of sacks that we had. You know what I'm saying? We were just a more complete defense.
You had better rotation and depth. Yes.
So you're saying I'll give this to you. I'll give this to and everybody in the stream. With what he had,
yes,
he should have coached better.
Okay.
And if he'd have coached better, he'd have had a number 1 defense.
Okay.
So they won in spite. Those players played in spite of what he was coaching in. Is that what you're saying? They won in spite.
Okay.
They won the individual matchups in spite of what he was calling on the field. And sometimes your players do that. Sometimes your players make you a better coach than you really are.
Okay.
Yeah. See, I wouldn't go as far as to say they won despite him. I'm sorry, Derek, but go ahead.
No, but look at the collection of quarterbacks they played most of the season. Look at the collection of offensive lines they played most of the season. Howie Roseman assembled a machine on defense. When you think about the players he brought in, the players that were held over, look at the rotation he had on the D-line and on the back end. Anytime you lose C.J. Gardner-Johnson, you don't miss a beat. You lost Avonte Maddox, you don't miss a beat. That's depth. I'm going to give Howie his credit. Howie built a team of depth, of interchangeable parts on that defense. And that machine was unstoppable for most of the season. Plain and simple. I'm going to give him that. But you guys heard me consistently say all season long, and you tell me if I'm right or wrong, I didn't like his scheme. Did I not say that all season long?
Yep.
Yeah. And he racked up some impressive
You got the best corners in the league, yeah.
Thank you. 77 sacks in the season. We may never see that again.
No, I don't think we will.
In the history of the NFL. You mean when a team gets 55, we're sitting there going, wow, 55 sacks.
My only issue, and I don't mean you, I really don't mean you, but like with people in general who like there's such a
disdain.
Yeah, and there's also like this, like it's not the Buddy Ryan era anymore. Like part of the objective for the Eagles was let's not give up big plays, and they didn't give up a lot of big plays.
No, they did.
It worked. So that's why you weren't, and you knew your front was good enough that you didn't have to blitz like blitz. It was like I get more press coverage, not quite giving up as much ground as they gave up. I totally get that. But I just think we went overboard with you got to blitz all the time. No, you don't. If you blitz if you're desperate, you don't have a team that can get home without the blitz.
Yeah, exactly. Like you look at the Cardinals. The Cardinals blitz.
I didn't have
60% of the time.
Yeah,
all the time.
They sucked.
They sucked.
Yes. And look what happened to them. Yeah,
right.
I did not have a disdain, and I'm not saying I did. I did not have a disdain for Jonathan Gannon.
No,
but in all the football I've watched, when I watched how they would attack, it would drive me nuts. And it's not that I wanted him to blitz more. For me, it was, why are your corners playing 7 to 10 yards? You got 2 Pro Bowl corners. Why are you consistently playing 7 to 10 yards off a ball? That's what drove me nuts.
Yeah.
If you look at the defense like Denver's corners, they're in your face all game. You look at some of those teams.
Look at Kansas City.
They're a bunch of rookies. What were they doing, Brooks? Bump and run all game. Every game they
playing.
They
in your face. All right, if we lose, we're gonna lose fighting.
Thank you.
You know what I'm saying?
And they won 17 out of 20 games.
But all that said, like I'm done.
What? Wait. What?
I'm done. The Gann wagon is shut down.
What?
It's been sold. I put it on eBay and it's been sold.
Hey, you should put it on Facebook Market. You're not getting much for it on eBay.
Yeah, it's a good point. Facebook Market, where it's going to be repainted, refinished, the whole thing. I'm done. I'm out. Like this stuff, this nonsense. I love everybody wanted me fired. No, they didn't. No, they didn't.
No, somebody else. Who was that? CJ GJ did the same thing.
Yes.
Oh, they never wanted me there. No,
right.
Come on, man.
Nobody said
you
that.
here.
But to be honest, how many coaches and players, think about this, through the years, have we heard once they leave an organization, take a backdoor shot at their organization once they land somewhere else?
Happens a lot.
Hey,
Happens a
So
lot.
see,
what
you
CJ did, what?
when you left me and left me at the other place, I didn't backstab you. I didn't talk junk about you, man.
No, I didn't talk about junk about you either.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure. Man. Hopefully, y'all just left me. Y'all left me. Y'all left me stranded there.
Threw that line out there. No fish bit on that one. Good try.
I thought you guys would go bite on it, man.
Kevin Savard is right. I'm bringing charcoal to the gang wagon. You're right.
That's right.
Yeah.
Just like I did with the gas grill. Yes.
I got a whole bag of Kings for sitting there waiting to torch that gang wagon.
I hear you,
my goodness.
I hear. Well, all right. So moving on from that nonsense, the Matt Patricia thing was weird because we were on yesterday when all this was kind of going down, right? So it was, he's been hired. It's on the team website.
Yeah.
Then it was gone from the team website, and there's some question happening whether or not he's going to get the gig. So at the time of the press conference, Nick Sirianni basically said, yeah, it's trending that way. It wasn't official yet. The whole thing was weird. So we do come to find out that it's official now that he's a senior defensive coach with the team. Now, what was also interesting in the press conference was Nick said that he, in fact, did consult with Darius Slay. Slay was not a fan of his time spent with Matt Patricia as the head coach. In fact, it got pretty ugly out the door.
That's why he ended up here. He let the trade go through because he wanted him out of there.
Right. Yeah. So I'm glad at least. I don't think players have to be consulted on every little move. Don't get me wrong, but something like this where there was something personal, I'm glad. I think the Eagles handled it right by going to Slay and saying, "Hey, you cool with this? Like, if we make this happen,
respect, man, respect."
Yes, it's respect, and clearly Slay was good. If he wasn't, this wouldn't have happened. So
right.
I'm good. If Slay's good, whatever, I'm fine. If they feel like that he's going to help, he is an experienced guy. I think on the defensive side of the ball, he's fine. That nonsense Belichick tried with him on the offensive side of the ball.
Right.
What are we doing? So I know people are pretty fired up about it. I'm okay with it if the organization's good and everybody's on board.
Well, look at what he's done, man. He's won 2 Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator. He's won 3 in all. But we're talking about he had guys like Vince Wilfork. He had guys, Chandler Jones. He had these guys playing at Gerard Mayo at an all-star level. So, I mean, the man can coach. I think he'll help with the transition of being more of a diverse front. He'll help with all that, with deciding what he wants to do as far as running a 3-4, 4-3 type of system. You know what I mean? A more gap presence, get up the field, create havoc type of gap defense, or whether it's going to be a 2-gap defense where they stymie guys at the line of scrimmage and let your outside backers and inside backers do the most of the pass rushing. So, I mean, he's been to the mountaintop several times. And, he's a former head coach. That experience alone should give him a run here. That's pretty good, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't think it's just that they're doing Bill a favor. You know what I'm saying? Bill Belichick a favor by bringing him in. I think it's more so they think he can help. And, I'm anxious to see what he can do.
Mm-hmm. The media, that's going to be one of the first topics when the media gets to them in OTAs in May. That's going to be one of the first topics that's going to be asked of both Patricia and Slay. Can you coexist? And they're going to be asked, what was the rift between you two? All that stuff's going to be brought up. That's the media doing their job. That's what they're supposed to.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's going to be a story people cannot wait to read in social media. If they buy newspapers online, whatever the case may be, that's going to be a hot topic whenever the media gets their first session with both of those guys.
As it should be.
Yeah,
as it should be.
All right. So you always try and read between the lines a little bit from what's being said at a press conference, and knowing, that Howie and Nick don't want to tip their hand too much to what's going to be happening, about the draft. I mean, there was a number of different things. Howie addressed the Hurts signing and said, props all over the place to Jalen, to his representation, to our front office, and we know too, to be able to make it work with the relatively low cap hits, it took, 2 parties to be able to make this happen, for sure. So he was very, very, singing the praises. I thought it was interesting. Some of the things that Nick Sirianni said about Jalen. He said, look, we got to bring in guys to help Jalen do a better job. We're going to add a lot of new wrinkles to this offense, and we didn't pay him to do less with him. You know, and then at the same time said, look, we always take into account, we know he's been hurt the last 2 years. We got to be careful. We got to be smart about the way we go about things. But I think he was kind of referencing like this notion that we're going to all of a sudden just be handing the ball off all the time. And there's going to be no risk of Jalen getting hurt is not the case. We got to still utilize the guy's strengths.
Well, you paid him to use those strengths. You paid him for not just his ability to be the leader on his team, but the intangibles we talked about so much that like it was a bad word. His ability to run is a major reason why our offense is so successful. Right. He just so happens to have just as good as an arm and ability to read defenses also. They paid Jalen Hurts, number one, for his leadership qualities on the team. Number two, his decision-making while on the field. You know what I'm saying? In order to run the system that they run, you got to be good enough to run read options, to run RPOs, to run a drop back system. You know what I'm saying? He can go out there and throw for over 300 yards by being a drop back quarterback, but he can also go in there and run 17 times and give you 120 yards from the quarterback position. Oh, and by the way, he can run the read option to perfection where whether you're wrong, either way it goes. You might want to slant that in, and he takes it from the running back, it takes around the corner for 15, 20 yards, or you want to stay wide so Jalen can't hurt you, hand the ball off to the running back up the middle for 10 to 15 yards. His decision-making is what makes him, if not the first or second best quarterback. He is a top 5 quarterback, no doubt. That's why he got paid. And his decision-making is why he's a top 5 quarterback.
Well said.
There's no question about it.
Yeah.
No question about it. They paid him. They pay him for his athletic prowess, but people don't understand is his ability to be a leader in that locker room, his stand-up ability.
You can't put a number. You can't put a number on that.
You cannot. He is he is everything that Jeffrey Lurie has preached about what he wants in his locker room consistently, and it starts with the quarterback.
I hadn't thought about that, Digo. You're absolutely right.
Think about it. He is everything that Carson Wentz wasn't. He is the perfect face of your organization. He is a stand-up guy. He takes the onus on himself when things go wrong. He is a 24-year-old lead, like he is the Pied Piper of that locker room. He is everything you want. And the Eagles identified that early. I got to give them credit for that, his leadership abilities. When you're proven veterans and you highly decorated veterans, and you automatically gravitate towards a guy who's barely wet behind the ears, that says a lot about his character beyond just his physical attributes. And all of those components is why he got paid. People think it's because of his athletic prowess on the field solely. Absolutely not. It's because of all the other intangibles he brings to the table. He is the complete package in terms of what you want to be your face of your organization. That's why right now he's the highest paid player in the game.
Well said. So Tone asked the question, how many rushing attempts are you guys comfortable with Jalen racking up in a single season? Rather than totals, which is hard to really digest, let's look at per game. As far as rushing attempts per game, I'm about 9-ish, 7 to 9. Somewhere around there would be a good number for me, which would be, pretty, I think, a decent amount down from where it was. But how about you guys?
I'm going to tell you the truth. With the way Jalen plays and the amount of respect that I have for his position on running the offense, and what I mean by position, he's going to do whatever it takes to win.
Right.
And I would trust him to make the right decisions. So if it takes him 17 times running the ball, he'll do that. If it takes him 5 times running the ball and 3 of them are the QB sneak, I'm good with that. I just trust that he will take care of himself. He will make sure that he does whatever it takes to win, with him also understanding what he means to this team.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? What he means to this team. So I can't put a rushing amount because everybody was up in arms when he ran for 19 times one game or 17 times one game. I feel as though I can trust him to take care of himself and understands where he goes, this team goes. So I'm just going to trust him on that. He's going to do whatever it takes. We saw him go out there and run for only 3 yards in a game and throw for 300 yards. We also saw him rush for 90-something yards and put up 200 yards passing and the running game has over 250 yards total. So it's really just his involvement on how he runs this offense, in which we have to look and understand that we can't really put a number of rushes on what his game is.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because of his game, his game is his game, whether you like it or not. If I had my choice, if I had my choice, it would handcuff his game. I don't want my franchise quarterback running the ball more than 7-8 times a game. I don't, because I'm looking at all the athletic quarterbacks. We just heard Josh Allen say, "I have to change my game." Josh Allen is starting to feel those hits. We saw Jalen miss a couple of games because it was a fluke accident. Dude in Chicago landed on him the wrong way, hurt his shoulder. He had to deal with that. I look at Lamar Jackson, what he's gone through the last couple of seasons because of his style of play. Lamar Jackson's style of play is his style of play. I look at what happened to RG3's career because of his style of play. You're going to play your game. Whatever got you to the league and however coaches deem you as a weapon in their offense, that's how you have to play the game. But I don't like my quarterbacks in today's game with these D linemen, linebackers faster than ever, and they're breaking records every year running the 40-yard dash and all this lateral speed that these guys have now. I don't like seeing my quarterback do it, but it's a part of his game, and he's not going to change that. You know what he's going to change that game? When he gets closer to 30 and his body's taking X amount of hits.
Yeah.
That's when you're going to see him change his game. So up until then, he's going to play his game. And every time he takes off running, I'm thinking, oh, geez.
Here we go.
Right.
Here we go.
I hear you. And now, the other thing that we were trying to do, you're trying to figure out, exactly what's being said. So they were asked, Howie and Nick, about the draft and what kind of player, you're going to go after. And he said, quote, Howie did, quote, we want to get a unique player. You want to pick by talent, not position. Now, one of the things he also said was we'd be naive to look at this upcoming year the way that we looked at last year in terms of getting through it as healthy as we did. So you can look at that and say unique player, Bijan Robinson. But you can also look at it and say, he just told you they don't believe they're going to get through this year clean like he did last year. So drafting somebody at a position where you already have a player.
Right.
It really makes sense.
You can take it a lot of different ways, right?
Yeah.
What he said.
Go ahead, Brooksy.
I'm going to say this. I still don't think that they're going to draft a running back. And it's only not at 10. They're not going to do it at 10 because the way they run their offense just doesn't make sense for them to invest that much, a first-round pick, a top 10 pick, in an offense that likes to pass the ball first to set up the run. So that means you're going to give a guy 4 snaps in the first half, and then you run in the second half. To me, that's just not what you do when you have an offense that has the weapons on the outside that it does. Say what you want to say. I still think that, the guys that they have right now, the Kenneth Gainwell can run this offense to perfection right now. He showed in the Super Bowl he can do exactly what, that kid is doing already. He is a phenomenal player, but I don't think he's a generational talent like everybody's building him up to be. If he was that generational talent, Bijan, yes.
Yeah.
If I thought he was that generational talent, then why were they one of the sorriest teams in the Big 12? They were one of the sorriest teams in the Big 12 the last 3 or 4 years that he's been there. If you're a generational talent, your team is not as sorry as they are. So he is good. He may be a great player when he gets somewhere, but he's not a great player. He's not on the same lines that I saw Zeke. I did 2 national championship games, which I was in the truck producing with Zeke. I saw him have over 200-some yards in a national championship game, and he's not even close to what Zeke did. I broadcasted games when I had Saquon Barkley, where he took games over, but I didn't see any 200-yard games, and he's more special than I think this kid is. Bijan Robinson is. Those two are definitely more special than Bijan Robinson. So I'm not saying that he is a guy that you can look to and say he's a generational talent. I don't know why people want to put him in that type of regard. If you're a generational talent, your team would be a lot better than what they were in Texas.
Here's what I like about what Sirianni said and their approach to the draft. Go back to 2004. They get to the Super Bowl. They were destined to be a Super Bowl team in 2005. decimated by injuries. 2017, they win the Super Bowl. 2018 and 19, decimated by injuries. What they did this year, having all 22 starters available for a Super Bowl, when you think about how many players missed games, CJ, Avante, and they still came back, and that's so true. Now you got that bullseye even bigger on your back with lesser talent. You don't have the same components coming back across the board on defense. You have to prepare for what's to come. That was basically saying that's unheard of to be as healthy as we were at the end of a season. We talked about it before Christmas. I brought up a stat, and I think I mentioned it again shortly after season. You look at a few teams that had to go through 75, 80 different players to get through a season. I think one team went through over 90 players in 2001. I believe it was Jacksonville. Through over 90 players just to get through a season.
True.
That's more of the norm than the exception to the rule.
Right.
The Eagles were an exception to the rule last year. You know, knock on wood. It was phenomenal what they did. But I love what he's saying. We can't bank getting through a whole season like we did last year. We have to prepare for this. So when we look at their draft, if they don't draft who everybody's clamoring for, think about the bigger picture. Jason Kelsey's getting older. Lane Johnson getting older. Brandon Graham's older. Fletcher Cox is older. You don't know. Maybe they'll get through and see, but you don't know. But you have to prepare for that. Mm-hmm. And that's what I like about what they said most.
Yeah. But see, I mean, I like you know, everybody's stance on Bijan. You know, Bijan is good, man. But I mean, just like, you know, Yada just said, 47 yards against Bama. When Bama, you're playing against the best athletes in the world. You know,
Bama and TCU.
Pros,
TCU.
man.
You know what I'm saying?
The two teams that made him look pedestrian.
Right, yeah. Right. You know, I mean, I'm not going to downplay how good he is, but I'm not going to put him on the same level that I saw Zeke play and that I saw Saquon Barkley play. I'm not going to put him at that level. You know what I'm saying? Those guys, they were warranted to be top 5 players that they were. Right, they were top 5 talent. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying it'd be a bust for him to get a 10. I'm not saying it'll be a bust to pick him up at 8. But he just doesn't fit. Well, no, I'm not gonna say that. He just wouldn't be the best pick for what they're trying to do this year. He's not that big of a talent,
right,
to take this team to another level.
Right. It feels like to me, if it's Bijan, it'll be them trading back from 10 down to like, I don't take a random 18, 19,
15,
I would say
something like that.
If you're still there in the early 20s.
Right. That's what that feels like to me. And I don't think he's lasted the 30. Let me be really clear.
No.
But for some crazy reason he lasted the 30, then you think about it there. Or you get up from 30 to 25. I don't know. But I don't think just staying at 10, which is, you know, very unlikely. They're going to move probably, but I don't think sitting at 10 he's their pick. I think that it could be any number of different ways you could go. And it's not like, I know everybody says you don't need an offensive lineman. You don't need to do it. Well, yes, you do, because these guys aren't getting any younger and anybody could get hurt, and they lack depth that they didn't have. They had great depth last year. They don't have that now. They don't have it.
They did not get hit by the injury bug. Fact.
Nope.
It's almost unheard. No, it's not almost unheard of. It's unheard of to only have one guy that was a starter. He wasn't even a starter though. Would you guys say that Derek was a starter?
Not really. And Barrett, if you intended him to be the starter at the beginning of the year, he wasn't going to be the starter as the season went on.
No.
Right. So Derek Barnett was the only guy that was on IR that didn't start the year. For them to have all 22 guys that started the season in the Super Bowl, playing in the Super Bowl.
That's right.
It's more than an anomaly.
Yeah,
it's
crazy.
More than an anomaly. That doesn't happen in the NFL.
Nope.
I don't know how they did that. You know what I mean? I mean, they sprinkled pixie dust on them or something, you know, whatever it was. But you don't have teams that healthy, not even halfway through the season.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You never have all your guys at the end of the season. That's never happened. I can almost say it never happened before ever in football.
Yeah. Yeah. I listen, I hear you. And that's the reason why A, their history, and B, I keep going back to the injury thing. Anything can happen. Older players at this point. Lane Johnson was out there playing with a torn abductor.
Right.
You know, like stuff happens, but it's a miracle he got through that. You know, what would you have done if he went down? It would have been troublesome, man. You know, to say the least. So Yeah, you got lucky last year. Let's face it. That part of it, you got fortunate. But you set yourself up to succeed. But that's just luck. Getting through stuff, unscathed. For sure. Look, I think there's a couple other things that you look at when you're talking about this. How much do they like the running backs that are, the second tier or whatever, that are, later on, Gibbs, any of these guys. And I think Gibbs is going to be really good, but there's a bunch of those kind of guys.
Gibbs will be really good. Catching out of the backfield, I mean, he's actually a better receiver than Bijan if you look at it. But Bijan's got that size, but he didn't have the quickness that Gibbs had. Gibbs is a 4.3 guy. Bijan's a 4.5 guy. Even though Bijan has breakaway speed, nobody's really hawked him from behind. He doesn't have that separation that Gibbs will have. Gibbs, you could put Gibbs at the slot receiver. I don't know if you can necessarily. Well, you probably could. You probably could put Bijan as a receiver out in the slot. And I think that's if they did pick him up, that's what they would do, just to get all their weapons on the field. But I just, to me, it doesn't make sense because how their philosophy is on how they run their offense. They pass, get a lead, and then run the rest of the game out. That's their MO.
Yes.
The reality of the matter is they may not even be looking at either one of these backs as a viable option because of the way they feel the draft will fall. But there's enough surplus backs there. They'll get somebody who fits the criteria of Nick Sirianni's offense, who will fit in just fine because he does not have to be a feature back. There is no such thing as a feature back. Whoever drafts Bijan is looking at him as a feature back.
Yep.
The Eagles don't draft feature backs in his offense.
No, it's not
Doug
like they
Peterson
do it.
No,
Nope.
Doug Peterson do. Chip Kelly got rid of Shady.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the dumbest move I've ever.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I know. But
that was the dumbest move ever. Yep.
And I agree 100%. But they don't look for a feature back. They want a solid role player. Kenneth Gainwell was drafted because he was a solid role player. And oh, by the way, he fit very nicely in what Sirianni does. Boston Scott is still here because he fits very nicely for the limited role that he has for what they do. Miles Sanders had that breakout year because he wasn't overused. You're playing behind the best offensive line in the game. He wasn't overused. You're not looking for a Derrick Henry. You're not looking for a Jonathan Taylor. Those players are going somewhere else. Yep. Those type players. Yep. Plain and simple.
And it comes down to also dollars and cents. They don't want to allot that kind of money to that position.
Nope.
That's it. I mean, they just don't. And, I think it's around $4 million a year is what, like if you took, let's just say you took Bijan at like 10. I just don't see them paying that kind of money out to a running back, especially now with Jalen's deal.
Heck no.
And there's needs for defensive tackle. Fletcher getting older, losing Hargrave. There's needs for defensive end. Part of that's going to be gone.
There's needs for a right guard.
Yeah. And even if it's not, even if it is Juergens this year, you need depth. You don't have Andre Dillard to plug in if you need be now. So, yeah, I mean, look, you're going to see last year's rookies get right on the field this year. You may or may not see the guys that you draft this year get right on the field. Probably will, but it's not 100%. But what you knew yesterday was they weren't going to tip their hand too much. It's just not, you're playing poker now. It just doesn't make sense to be able to do that.
One of the best coaches I had in my life. He told me, and when he told me it irritated me because at the time I didn't want to hear it, But I was a rookie, and I was going into week 13. Oh no, it was week 13, and I had broke my thumb, and I had started every single snap of that year, all 4 preseason games. All the regular season, all 13 games. I played every single snap. And I hit that rookie wall. I mean, I was knocking that rookie wall over. And coach came to me and said, "You don't know what you don't know." And walked away from me. I wanted to whoop his and I started chasing him in practice. I'm already pissed off because my thumb is broke. I started chasing him in practice. I'm gonna break your neck. You know what I'm saying? They got me. Ray Rhodes sent me in. Get in. Go to the locker room. So I went to the locker room. I just knew I was cut, man. So I went in and started packing my stuff up. So all the veterans, we only had like 30 minutes of practice left. All the veterans, came in. They started walking. Ooh, you out of here now. Ooh, you getting cut. Ooh. I'm like sitting there. I'm sitting in my locker. I'm packing my stuff up. I'm like, I'm ready to cry. A grown man ready to cry. And I'm sitting there and they go to meetings and I'm sitting in the locker by myself. And Ray Rhodes comes in there. "What are you doing here?" I said, what do you mean? You just cut me? No, I ain't cut you, boy. I told you to go in, get your head back. Get on back in there. Well, Callahan told me you don't know what you don't know. He said, fool, you don't know what you don't know. I'm thinking I'm like, damn, all right, yeah, okay. So I went to the meeting, you know what I'm saying? And later on that night, he said, man, after practice, so, head coach told me after practice, after you finish with meetings and everything, I want you to come to my office. Bro, I sat in there with Coach Rhodes, Ray Rhodes. We sat there till like 11 o'clock at night, drinking moonshine, telling stories. Some of the stories he told me were unbelievable. You know what I'm saying? Next thing you know, I'm waking up at 6 o'clock. I'm sleeping on his couch in his office. He left me in there. So I was so drunk. Left me in there on the couch, sleep. I woke up, got up because he came in the office. Get your ass up. Get and sweat that stuff out there. Sweat that stuff out. I don't want you having no bad practice either. Take that little thumb, that little pinky ring, whatever you have going on. And I'm like, all right, coach, all right. And that was it. But you don't know what you don't
awesome.
know.
That is awesome. Yeah, that's pretty wild, man. It's pretty interesting. Interesting insights there from Ray Bob. We got a lot of Ray Bob stories today. This is good.
Ray Bob was that dude, man.
Hey, Barrett. The worst thing the media hated about Ray Rhodes was, how dark he was,
Mm-hmm.
and they always tell you don't wear white when you sit in front of the media because it drowns out. He would deliberately wear a white hat, white shirt every chance he got. He didn't give a about what the media needed. He could care less about what the media needed. He would do this all the time, man. You talking about messing up color balances on cameras? Oh my goodness. It would drive us nuts, man.
Ray Bob, man. Ray Bob
was different.
Dude,
he was different.
He was
sure.
always across the street. He stayed across the street at the turf. Was it Surf and Turf or Turf Club?
The Turf Club.
Turf Club,
yeah, with it. He loved the Turf Club. I used to see it. So our offices were at the Wells Fargo Center. So when we worked the Comcast Sports Center, NBC Sports Philadelphia, Barrett's are still there. So I would Fridays, if it was a big horse race like the Kentucky Derby or whatever, I'd pop out on my lunch break. And I may have placed a wager or two over at the Turf Club. Occasionally.
You may have, okay.
Back in the day.
Sometimes, yeah.
So back then. I'm not kidding you, man. I would go over there and I would see Ray there, religiously, man. And everybody left him alone.
Yep.
He was over there a lot. But it was just funny to see him in there. can you imagine walking in there and Bill Belichick's in your local, off-track betting place? It's unheard of. But it was what made Ray great. But anyway, all right, let's come back, guys. We will continue with the Eagles discussion. We'll get a little bit into the Phillies and Sixers, revisit that Sixers, and a bunch of stuff going on NFL wise for sure. Some crazy stuff which we will get into, and we will also rank our AFC coaches. We will get into. We'll rank them 1 to 10. So
I'm
do
ready.
all those things.
I'm ready.
All right, Derek's ready. Do that when we come back. Don't go anywhere. Barrett Brooks, Derek Gunn, Rob Ellis, Sports Take, JAKIB Sports YouTube Network. Let's talk Pro Action Restoration. Yes, Pro Action Restoration are the folks that you reach out to if you have a home, you have a business, you have a property, and you unfortunately have to deal with fire or smoke or mold damage to that area. Pro Action Restoration is on call 24 hours, 7 days a week to assist. That means if you call them on a Saturday, that means if you call them on a holiday, that means if you call them at night, they will get out there and they will assist you. Pro Action Restoration is licensed, bonded, fully insured. And here's the thing. They've been serving the tri-state area for more than 2 decades, which means they are good at what they do. This is not a fly-by-night business. They have been around a long time for good reason. Again, it could be water, it could be fire, it could be smoke damage, mold remediation. You name it, they can handle it. Give them a call, 610-623-3760, 610-623-3760, or online at proactionrestoration.com. That's proactionrestoration.com.